Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to the kitchen at Shepherding Pepper's farm. I thought I would bring you along on a food journey for today. Although this is not food, these are flowers that we had just harvested from the garden. They were really, really beautiful, and I've been really enjoying putting bouquets of flowers in all of the kids' rooms. So I will essentially bring all the flowers inside, line them up on this little table that we have behind our couch, and the kids can pick a bouquet of flowers and take them into their bedroom to enjoy for the week until I cut some more fresh flowers down in the garden. And it's just been a fun little thing that we get to do in the spring because we have fresh flowers growing on our little hobby farm out here. It's a fun hobby. I've really enjoyed the process of growing flowers lately. And let me tell you what, these gladioluses that you're seeing right in front of you, these are now some of my favorites. I feel like a really beautiful bouquet of gladioluses is almost unbeatable. They're just outstanding. Love them. This is a random morning for me after coming in from the garden, dealing with the flowers. And then over here I have some dehydrator trays. I am making edible flower sprinkles. So if you guys want to see a video on edible flower sprinkles, let me know in the comments. The kids are loving them. They don't have a lot of flavor to them, but they're a fun decorative thing that you can make from flowers that you can grow in your garden, and the kids really love that. I am too. I think it's a really neat garnish on a lot of dishes. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you are interested in. Here you can see the finished product, the different bouquets that we made this particular morning. Aren't the gladioluses really beautiful, just with the massive amount of height that they have on them? I love those. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about making pizza, because every Saturday I make homemade pizza from scratch with the kids, and typically we'll watch a movie. We've been actually talking about moving this to Fridays instead of Saturdays, because Saturdays I typically go out and do a really massive garden harvest, and it's hard to do all that work and then come inside and do all the work of making fresh pizza too. Sometimes I will bulk make them and put them in the freezer, which I need to do again since the last time I did a video on that, where we're out of our freezer pizzas and I've been making them by hand, and it's really nice having them in there. But I try to use everything that we grow as fresh as I can and then store the excess and preserve it. And since we have peppers coming in from the garden again, that means chopping up peppers to put on pizza, which is great. And I'll make these little serving sized dishes and trays of things that you could put on your pizzas. And then the kids can come over and they can make their pepperoni if they want to, or if they're knee deep in whatever movie it is that we're watching, I'll make it for them. They can tell me what they want and I'll put it on there. And then we will often have leftover pizza for lunch the next day, which is helpful. And there's just something extra special about using fresh ingredients. We just harvested a lot of our onions, so we're getting to put homegrown onions on our pizza, and the fresh peppers and all of these things. It just makes it taste outrageously delicious. There's just something unbeatable about fresh ingredients. It's awesome. Anytime I'm making pizza, I always coat the pizza pans in olive oil. It helps to kind of crisp up the bottom of the pizza. One day I would love to have a pizza oven, even if it's one of the ones that you put on the counter or something of that nature. That would be great, just because in a traditional oven you don't typically get it as hot as you would want with a pizza oven. I mean, everything that I've ever read on making pizza says you want your oven really high, up to 500, and that's great if it's the middle of winter. But if you are in the middle of summer in the deep south, you do not want your oven on very much at all, let alone at such a high temperature, because the AC works fine, but once it's 109 degrees outside and you start pumping 500 degree air into your house from your oven, your AC is going to resent you and not work quite as well. So one day maybe we'll reach the pizza oven stage of life, but we are not there yet. And currently we're trying to do the pizzas a little lower temperature, around 400. And so you want that bottom of the pizza to get nice and crispy, and olive oil definitely helps with that. We finally had enough tomatoes in the freezer that I was able to make a fresh batch of homemade spaghetti sauce and marinara sauce. In years past, I've been able to make all of our own spaghetti sauce and marinara sauce and have enough to put it up for the entire year, but we actually use a decent amount of spaghetti sauce and marinara sauce because we have pizza once a week, and it's not like one pizza that we're having. We have either 7 small pizzas or at least 3 to 4 large pizzas, and that takes a lot of sauce. And then if we have spaghetti, or if we have penne pasta or things like that, or meatball sub sandwiches, things like that throughout the week, then that's even more sauce that we're using on top of that. So we actually need to make somewhere close to, oh, if I'm guesstimating, anywhere from like 125 jars of sauce to a little bit more than that for us to have enough that we could need for an entire year period. Last year, as you guys know, we didn't end up getting as many tomatoes, and so we weren't able to do that, and I had been trying out different types of marinara sauce. Yo Mama was one of the ones that I tried out. That was pretty good. And then there was another that was pretty decent, but I try to search for organic marinara sauces that don't have added sugar if possible. I feel like your sauce should be pretty good on its own, and if you're gonna add sugar to it, you shouldn't need very much. But we were able to make our own sauce recently, and that felt so good. I was so happy to have our own homemade pizza sauce in the house again. Over there in the corner, you can see the bowl of green beans. I've been continually harvesting green beans and canning them at this point. If you haven't seen it yet, there is a video that I have done. I would imagine it's out now that you can see it, where we did the whole canning of the green beans. If not, then that will be out very, very soon, so you should check that out. And yeah, it's really nice being able to preserve your own stuff. Same with the tomatoes. When you can can your own fruits and vegetables, there's just something very rewarding about it. Now, most of the time, I will end up making 2 different everything pizzas because that's what Seth likes. He likes an everything pizza with jalapenos on it, and then my middle daughter, Ella, she likes an everything pizza that does not have jalapenos on it. And as such, you end up making 2 of basically the same type of pizza, but it's really exciting when the jalapenos are first coming in because oftentimes they haven't had enough suffering yet. Jalapenos and hot peppers, they like to suffer. That's what helps make them spicy. So depriving them of water, having them wilt a little bit will help the capsaicin really come out of the plants, and then they will be spicier. But when you first start getting them in, they're typically not as hot, and then as the season progresses, they'll get a little bit more spicy, and then you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that hot jalapeno after having these pretty mild ones. We're at that stage now of the hot jalapenos, and it's very, very nice to be back there. I always end up with extra pizza dough when I am cooking pizza for everybody, and this is a purposeful thing. I do make extra for the purpose of typically making some sort of breakfast thing like cinnamon rolls or chocolate chip bread, something of that nature. And for this particular circumstance, I was thinking about how great it would be if you had a pizza roll up that was kind of in the shape of a cinnamon roll, and I wanted to use our extra ingredients. So I used a white sauce for this, which is what I typically use on my pizza, is a white sauce. And then I put some mozzarella cheese in there, and I cut up some jalapenos, put it in there, rolled these up like a cinnamon roll. These were so good. I don't know why I am so jazzed on these pizza rolls. but it worked out so well and they tasted so good, and it was just really fun to have pizza in a different shape, I guess. I don't know. I was really excited about this. But I want this to be an encouragement to anybody to play with your food a little bit when you're creating it, when you're making recipes, when you're cooking in the kitchen. Have fun with it. Come up with something a little different or unique. And sometimes it turns out really, really amazing. After I initially did the white sauce pizza roll up, I was like, oh, we should do an everything one because then the kids and Seth could have the same thing for lunch tomorrow. And so basically, I made an entire everything pizza, cut it up with a cookie cutter, and then rolled it up the same way we did the other ones and baked these in the oven. I got so many compliments from the kids the next day about how fun it was. They just loved it. It was just a nice way to switch it up, to have something a little bit different. And with kids, I often notice that if you just change the shape of something or the design a little bit, it becomes new again and it's more exciting and it's more fun, which is kind of a testament to how visual we are as creatures, as people. I also bought some different Tupperware, the kind that you would see in a deli where they have pasta salad or pre-made. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my. I don't spend a lot of time in delis. I've seen some, but like a macaroni salad or those Tupperware dishes that you can see through them and they have the little labels on them and they say what is in them and you can just kind of grab it and go and eat it. I got some of those and I started putting things in them like leftover mac and cheese and just writing really quickly on a label that says mac and cheese and putting it on there, and all of a sudden my kids are willing to eat all sorts of things from the refrigerator because it's a little bit different. It looks like something you could grab from a deli and eat, and that just makes it very exciting. So I was cutting up parchment paper just there so that way I could use these little baskets and not have to do as many dishes for pizza nights. I just don't want to have to do any more work than necessary, and this is a reusable version of a paper plate. And so there you can see the pizzas right there. They look great. They tasted excellent. They were so good. Now I figure if you guys watch the process, you should be able to see the finished product of the pizza. Now, if I'm already having to cut up a bunch of vegetables to put on pizza and things like that, I will often check through what we've harvested and what we have vegetable wise on hand, and then I'll refill up this little snack container that I like to be able to pull out whenever we have sandwiches and things like that. And typically when we harvest our carrots and things like that, I'll put them all in one big Ziploc bag and then I'll kind of sort through them as I'm cooking. And I'll use the larger ones that I can cut up into carrot sticks for things like our veggie tray, and then the ones that are a little bit smaller or maybe are oddly shaped, things of that nature, I will put them into this chopper thingy, which does require some arm strength sometimes to get it to go all the way down, or you have to slap it really hard. And I will chop these into carrot pieces, and then we'll go ahead and put these into the freezer in 1 to 2 cup measurements. So if I'm making something like soup or chicken pot pies, things that you might need frozen diced up carrots for in the future, I'll have them in the freezer on hand and I can use them in cooking, which is a big time saver, especially since we like to do a lot of freezer meals and bulk cooking days. It's really excellent to have things on hand, one that you grew and two that you just prepared. It makes it easier for you in the future when you're cooking. Now, you may remember that giant bowl of green beans that we had sitting on the counter. This is kind of my conclusion to all of the food prep that we've been doing while cooking pizza, is to take the green beans and get them into their canning jars. I didn't actually run the canner this particular day. I was just kind of done. I was tired by the end of it. but I can go ahead and I can fill up the jars and I can put filtered water in here, put the lids on them, and then I can stick them in the fridge since I cold pack and cold can when I pressure can green beans, which is kind of a time saver if you have it all in the refrigerator ready to go. And then you can just grab it out, put it in the canner, and get it done the next day. And if it's first thing in the morning, running the stove doesn't heat up the house as much, which is nice. I will do this in the background in the kitchen while we're watching a movie, and every so often you'll see me glancing to the TV and kind of keeping an eye on what is happening in the movie. Very rarely will I sit down and attempt to watch a movie, mostly because sitting still is near impossible for me. I will sit down for The Princess Bride and A Knight's Tale. I will sit down for those two movies. They're two of my absolute favorites. But for most other things, I will be up in the kitchen making something or keeping myself busy so that way I'm not a distraction to other people while they're watching the movie. So here you can see the pizza rolls that we made. How good do those look? And they tasted amazing. And then we just took some marinara sauce and we had that on the side and we dipped it in there and it was so good. All right, you guys, I really enjoyed spending this time with you. I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.